Hello, I'm Christina Lewicki. I'm the chair of BEnet. I see some familiar faces here. It's always welcome to see those faces, and many new faces. So I would just like to take this opportunity to tell you a bit more about Barnard Entrepreneurs Network. The purpose of BEnet is to create a context for alumni to build relationships, and specifically alumni who are interested in entrepreneurship and those who are pursuing careers as entrepreneurs. We create this context through an educational program, and you can read more about our program in the current alumna magazine. We were featured there. But just to give you an idea of the range of events that we've had on offer in this, the conclusion of our inaugural year, they included an alumna-led tour of Google to gain insights on the entrepreneurial workplace, and a presentation by Rita Gunther-McGrath, who is one of the country's leading business strategists. So it's a big range of topics that we are pursuing, and tonight we're focusing, of course, on finance. As we develop our roster of speakers, BEnet has a wealth of expertise to draw on among our alumni, and we are really honored to have a leading member of a very illustrious group here with us this evening, Liddy Karter. I am going to end my personal introduction of Liddy with these words. Our leadership group member, Suzanne Katz, is going to tell you more about Liddy. But I'd like this opportunity to just tell you in turn a little bit about Suzanne. She is a certified financial planner and wealth management advisor with Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. She works with her clients to develop financial plans that reflect their most important goals and implements investment strategies to help achieve them. In addition to investment management, Suzanne focuses on liability management, including life, disability, and long-term health insurance needs, business succession planning, legacy planning strategies, and charitable giving. Suzanne works with many women who are balancing various areas of their lives, including business ownership. Suzanne graduated from Barnard and the Jewish Theological Seminary, and also holds an MBA from Columbia Business School, as well as a Master's of International Affairs from CIPA, Columbia School for International and Public Affairs. She is a member of our leadership group, and I would encourage you to speak with Suzanne after the event. She is focusing our second stage of BEnet development, which is developing relationships among all of you, even more forcefully than we have in our first year. So if you could just talk to her about what you would like, who you'd like to meet, and the kinds of industries that you would like to connect with, information that Suzanne and the rest of us will find invaluable. So now I'm turning the podium over to Suzanne.
Thanks, Christina. It is my great pleasure to introduce Ms. Elizabeth Karter, or Liddy, who is a managing director of Enhanced Capital Partners, which provides investment capital to small businesses that are traditionally underserved by conventional sources of financing. In this role, Liddy provides equity and debt financing to small businesses in Connecticut in the areas of manufacturing, information technology, healthcare, business services, and green technology. Liddy is also executive director of the Crossroads Venture Group, which is a voluntary professional organization committed to connecting leading venture investment professionals with high-growth emerging companies. Previously, Liddy was a managing director at Iron Ventures, which is an environmental capital fund that focuses on companies that enable the symbiotic reuse of industrial materials, water, and energy. She was also the managing director of Karter Capital Advisors, where she worked on angel and venture capital investments for emerging growth companies, and additionally was on the board of directors of the Angel Capital Association. She was a managing director of Golden Seeds Fund LP and of the Connecticut Angel Investor Forum, which she founded in 2004, and also founded the Innovation Pipeline Accelerator Program, which supported over 500 entrepreneurs before it was sold to the Connecticut Center of Advanced Technology. Liddy was the Chief Financial Officer of Netkey and the President and CEO of Resource Recovery Systems, which she then sold to a public company. Liddy began her career as a Vice President for Financial Services in the Investment Banking Division of Morgan Stanley. Liddy received her MBA from the Yale School of Management and her BA from Barnard College. Having run, built, sold, invested in, and supported numerous companies and the greater venture investing community at large, I am honored to present
here tonight because, well, I guess we all feel the same way. It's so cool to be back at Barnard. And it's also just really a pleasure to be in a room with so many people with founder on their name tags. It's just very rare to have that on a woman's name tag, and I'm going to start with that concept. But I can't get my slides up, so if someone could help me figure out what you want me to do next, that would be great. When I was asked by Christina and the group today to come and talk to you, I was shocked because I never think of Barnard and entrepreneurship in the same sentence. And I'm really thrilled that that is changing. And it's changing through a lot of hard work and a lot of focus. And also, I think because so many people, like all of you, realize that entrepreneurship can make an enormous difference in the lives of so many people. You sat through a pretty long bio, and I appreciate it. I'm kind of embarrassed, but there's a little bit of a thread, and I attribute that thread to the time I spent here at Barnard, which is that it's very important to make a difference in people's lives. And even though you might say, gee, she's in finance, who cares? You know, she's really about money, money, money. That's true, but I do believe that money drives so many things, and so it is true that that most of what I do has had to do with helping people and focusing on helping them. The reason I put this title here, in fact, is that I think that women do so much work helping people that very often they forget about helping themselves and helping their own companies. And so this is really focused on all of you, in honor of all of you, how much work you do and how much harder in many ways it is for women to accomplish the goals of being capable and successful entrepreneurs. The pair of shoes I have there is a Tory Burch pair of shoes, and Tory Burch is an icon, I think, now for women in entrepreneurship, and I'll mention her again later. So I love this number. I love this number because I want this number to never be seen again. This is true. As of 2013, 1.3% of private companies have a female founder. Hello. We are changing that, right? I mean, that can't be. We all have so many great ideas. This is what I'm talking about. This is the end of this. This is the next problem that I just want to sort of throw out there. 6.5% of private companies have female CEOs. The number is about 4% for public companies. But I'm not even worried about that because I don't deal with public companies. I deal with private companies. And I try to finance companies that have women as CEOs because very often there's hidden value there, extra capabilities, and I get along with women better in some ways than men because I identify more readily. And we all know that people who finance other people like to finance people with whom they have trust and sharing and shared experience. So I'm going to share with you now what my life is like. This is a picture of my firm. There are two women at the table, me and Soledad. Soledad left in December. And we hired 3 new guys. So now the ratio has actually shifted from 22 to 2 to 25 to 1. And I love these guys. But I gotta say, there aren't many female founders and there aren't many female investors. So we're gonna talk about these things tonight, and I hope that the information I can give you will help all of you in this audience who are female entrepreneurs, founders, investors, thinking about becoming any of the above. And the way I'd like to move forward is if you have any questions, anything comes to mind, just shout it out. I'm not, upset at all about interruption. That's just the opposite. Please interact. If anything I say is helpful, let me know. If it's stupid, let me know too.
Liddy?
Yeah.
Did any flags get raised when you had to hire 3 men to cover one woman's job?
Great question.
Yeah, it wasn't quite like that, but actually, it's interesting. I wrote an email to my managing partner and I said, what are we doing about diversity here? Was there any thought? And he said, I'd really like you to help me with that. And I said, then next time before you hire 3 more people, ask me. But it's not easy. It's not the top of mind. And frankly, it's not like there are women banging on the door asking to work at Enhanced Capital. And we're good. I mean, we have a woman who's a managing director. Most don't. You look at private equity firms. There aren't that many ladies. It's just hard to want to go there if you've never seen anyone else there. When I was at Morgan Stanley, I worked for a woman managing partner. And that was very, very helpful to me. And I just know that mentoring is rare in my field. So here are the things I was thinking of talking about tonight, which is if you're thinking of starting a business, pick the right business. And when you're pitching investors, pitch the investment, not the product. When you're pitching anybody, know who they are, but particularly if they're an investor, know your investors. You need to control your capital plan. I know that everybody thinks production, but I think money, and you've got to manage it carefully because that can be the success or failure of your company. And then finally, and this is really a driver for tonight, why we're all here, is to make good and useful, appropriate connections. Those are the topics that I'm thinking of. Actually, I should go back there. Anyone want to add anything to the agenda? Yeah.
Will you speak about, or can you speak on why the women aren't leaning towards foundership or finance?
Sure. We'll throw that in as it comes down. It's a good point. Okay. Well, you can always add later. So, picking the right business. One of the things that happens to a lot of people when they're thinking about business is they have a problem and they think, I know how to solve that problem. And so by definition, they're creating a consumer product almost by definition because the problem is usually a consumer product. And I see this happen so frequently, it disturbs me because I realize that they haven't gone through the analytical exercise that can be very important in creating a big business, a scalable business, a business that can actually make a difference. And so I just really like to focus on the process of picking the right business. You want to look at an industry sector, and you want it to be an industry sector that's growing really rapidly, that has some radical innovation. I think of 3D printing right now as a good example of a company that I know is actually run by a woman in Connecticut, Oxford Performance Materials. They have very small revenues, but it's in such a hot space that they're able to take the company public and get enormous contracts from large corporations that are desperate to understand this cutting edge and emerging technology. It's sophisticated, it's complicated, and it's changing the way we manufacture everything. So that's an example of a business that you might not just fall into, but if it's a good business because in a way it's very innovative, but yet they're dealing with things that you need every day, things that are manufactured. Another set of businesses that sort of globally are growing fast are information technology. Has been growing fast for 25 years. Clean tech, up and down, yes, but still got some real wind at its back at times. Manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, you just mentioned 3D printing, and medical devices. Why are devices growing so fast versus, for instance, biotech, which is basically dead as an information or as an investment space? The reason is very simple. The cost of biotech is very substantial, whereas the cost of manufacturing a medical device, which in many cases is benefiting, by the way, from 3D printing, is very light. You can make a product that can get through FDA approval quickly, and manufacturing can be outsourced. So as an owner, you have no capital expense. You simply have your regulatory overhead, and that can get again taken by third parties. You can get law firms that will actually do a lot of that work for you. So that's why medical devices, for instance, fall into my next point, which is when you come up with a business model, if you're starting a business, it's probably a good idea to have a business model that enables you to be capital efficient, capital light, so that you don't have to raise tens of millions of dollars in order to get to a break even. And finally, thinking about whether you're going to do a product or a service, whether you're going to have direct or indirect sales. There's no right answer, but when you think about products, they tend to be a little more capital heavy. When you think about a service, it's more capital light usually. And those are, have proven to be easier to grow and are much more in favor right now. And then again, the direct or indirect, today we can do so much more with direct marketing that has become a more favored side of the marketing model. And then finally, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, could you define a little bit further capital light?
Yeah, capital light is what I as an investor think about the whole capital plan. How much money will this company take to get from here to self-sustaining and then to give me a 3x return? That's my goal. I want to be in and out and I want to make 3 times my money. So if it's going to take $50 million to get there, then I need to get out at $150 million, and that's a pretty big buyer. If it's going to take $2 million to get there, then I can get out at $10 million and I've done 5x and I've done great. So that's how I think about capital requirements. But when you think about what different types of businesses take to get there, there are benchmarks. One of the other things that I think entrepreneurs often don't know is that there are benchmarks for everything. And they think, oh, I'll just start a food company, for instance, and it'll have a brand, and the brand will have value. Well, the average consumer brand that is successful today takes roughly $10 million to get established. It's just sort of a median. Some take more, some take less. 10 million just to hit the point where the brand is well enough known to have some market value. These are the kinds of numbers that you need to know when you're thinking about what business to pick. So capital light is where you can actually do that with less. And the other aspect of it is how much can be outsourced. Do I need to pay for my sales force, for instance, or can I have my sales force work on commission only, that kind of thing? And then am I going to address business to business or business to consumer? And how big do I want my company to get? Those are all issues that you need to decide up front. I will say that the much favored approach is a business to business model. Business to consumer, as I said, is expensive, hard to achieve success in, and business to consumer, and very volatile typically. So if you have a business to business model, maybe a little harder to do the initial sale and to come up with a product that's really valuable, but once you've got those customers, they tend to be more stable. One of the other questions I often get asked by women is, well, what business is most friendly? I think your point at, why would you be in financial services if you're the only female at the table? Isn't that a little lonely? In fact, I often joke when people point that out that I just don't invite women to any meetings that I go to. It's my preference. And the fact is, there really isn't a great business to be in. Here's a list of the proportion of female executives by industry group. You'll see that none of them exceed 20%. That's women in management in any of these industry groups. Healthcare being the highest by a little bit, just over consumer products and services. So, doesn't matter what you pick, it's going to be lonely. It's okay. Value creation. When we think about starting a business, the reason to start a business, I always say, is to sell a business. Why do you want to sell it? Because that's how you make money. And that's, of course, my very unique take on this. Mine and every other person who finances small businesses. You got to find a business with a huge market need, not 100 million, but $1 billion is kind of a bottom number. That's the addressable market, a strong value proposition. My rule of thumb is, if you're not cutting the cost of whatever good or service you're providing by at least 50%, it's not worth doing. 50% is a hurdle, but it's what catches attention. You need an experienced team. You were asking me about how to find someone with experience in in food. I just think it's so great that you're asking that, because there's no reason to reinvent any wheel. Every one of these businesses has been done, started, and you're going to take a different twist on it, but find advisors. And then come up with, at the very outset, I know everyone says write a business plan, and I think that's true, and part of that, a key part of that, is a financial plan. How am I going to fund this puppy? You don't know what it's going to look like, but you can look at 20 other companies that are similar and see what they did, and look at the ones that succeed. That's a good paradigm for you. And then finally, an issue that many entrepreneurs struggle with is barriers to entry. Should I have patents? Do I need to file a patent? Do I have trade secrets? Does it matter? What are my other advantages? All of these are advantages, but I don't struggle too much around them, because it's clear that the patent law changes that have been made in the last year are so damaging to entrepreneurs. The United States just recently went to what's called a first-to-file system, and that just really favors large companies and makes it really hard for small companies to compete. So I'd say just don't even worry about patents at this point. Keep your trade secrets and just focus on your top line, sales, sales, sales. So that's how I think about picking the right business. And one of the next steps that people often ask me about is, well, how do I value my company? I've just told you what I think comprises the value, the components of value. But then when you're actually talking to someone like me, very often entrepreneurs will come in and tell me that their business is worth $10 million, even though it's pre-revenue, and they'd like me to take a 20 to 30% stake, but they want me not to count all the other investors, so that I will get diluted down with every follow-on round. And so this is problematic from a number of perspectives. Let me just set the table that I see. The average valuation of a pre-revenue company today, 2013, was $2.6 million in the United States. That's a great number. That's up over $800,000 from within 6 years. So that's a great number. The pre-revenue, pre-money valuation of a company feels like it's really important when you're getting that first round of capital. But let me say that I think this is among the least important negotiations you will ever undertake, because you have no idea what will happen next. Your goal is to get enough capital to survive another day. And that's all you really need to worry about. And if it's a good idea and you have enough capital to show that it's a good idea, there will be so much value on the table that you'll be fine. And that's part of what you have to think about, which is the cap table. How are you going to fund this? What's going to be fundable about it? Do I have assets that I'll be able to leverage and take debt, which is so much cheaper than equity? What kind of valuation method am I going to look at, not just today, but will I have recurring revenue so I can do a discounted cash flow? If I don't have recurring revenue, how am I going to convince anybody that the sales will remain high? Will I have long-term contracts, that kind of thing? And then finally, think about what an investor is looking for, because every investor is different. And you've got to know them. We'll come back to that point. But yeah.
So when you're coming up with the number that you need for that initial round, is it okay to put in money to pay the founder in this round?
To pay the founder a salary? Yes. It is absolutely okay. Most founders' salaries range from, depending on where the company is, 65,000, up to about 120,000. And every now and then I get a founder who's thinking 250, 300, and it's just so off the market that this is a pre-revenue company that's a problem. And I suggest that they pay themselves that. They'll put that much money in and then they can take it back out, but otherwise, no. It's absolutely, founders have to survive. And there's only one way in most cases. They have to seek a salary. So when you're thinking about how much to give away up front, it really makes a big difference to the investor what that first number is. So this is just the way, this is a little grammar here. We have pre-money and we have post-money value. Pre-money is the money before, the value before you get the money, and post-money is the value after you get the money, pretty straightforward. But these are terms that get confused all the time, oddly enough. So expect an investor to take a first round, early stage investor to take 10 to 30% of the company. And that's okay, because the dilution will happen in such rapid pace that number will shrink along with your share. By the end of most companies' growth, and this happened in both of my companies, one was funded by angels and one was funded by venture capitalists, I ended up with about 25% of the company. That's about typical. I did okay, but it felt terrible. I was so frustrated. I thought, I'm losing, when I lost that 50%,